Welcome back, dear viewers. You're still watching The Breakfast Show live on Nile TV International. And in our second and final topic of discussion for today, we're going to be talking about the treasures of King Tut, that the exhibition encompassing the treasures of King Tut that was inaugurated on Friday in London. And this is the third stop for the Golden Pharaoh after Los Angeles and Paris. And the artifacts discovered in King Tut's tomb went on a worldwide tour beginning that kicked off in 2018 and is expected to last until 2021. And to shed more light on this topic, we're most delighted to be joined here in the studio by Mr. Said Ali Taha. He's an Egyptian researcher and historian. First of all, Mr. Said, good morning, and thank you so much for joining us on The Breakfast.
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
Good morning, Mr. Said. I believe, Karim,
Yes,
we're going to go to see a quick report that is featuring what we're talking about, and we'll come back to you.
Treasures from the tomb of the boy king, Tutankhamun, will go on show in London from Saturday as part of what organizers say will be their last world tour before they return to Egypt for good. More than 150 items, from statues and sculptures to a silver trumpet and a funerary bed, will be exhibited in Tutankhamun, Treasures of the Golden Pharaoh, at the capital's Saatchi Gallery. Other exhibits include a wooden ceremonial shield, linen gloves, and a life-size statue of the king that stood guard at the entrance of his last resting place. Exhibition curator Tariq El-Awadi said that the reason they were there, that they were celebrating almost 100 years since the time of the discovery of the tomb of Tutankhamun. He added that it was the first time Egypt allowed this number of artifacts to leave the country, and that this was the last traveling exhibition of Tutankhamun. The gallery says more than 60 of the items have left Egypt for the first time. The tomb of the 18th dynasty king was discovered by British archaeologist Howard Carter in the Valley of the Kings in Luxor in November 1922. It contained about 5,000 artifacts. London is the third of 10 cities hosting the exhibition after successful runs in Paris and Los Angeles. The items will eventually return to Egypt, where they will be put on display at the Grand Egyptian Museum, scheduled to open next year, next to the Giza Pyramids. Tutankhamun, Treasures of the Golden Pharaoh, runs at London's Saatchi's Gallery until May 3, 2020.
Welcome back, and like we said, like my dear colleague Karim Gamaluddin just said, we have with us live here in the studio the researcher and historian Mr. Said Ali Taha. Good morning, Mr. Taha, and let's first talk about King Tut. Who is King Tut?
King Tut, he is the son of King Akhenaten, and he is the son of a secondary wife of King Akhenaten called Kia. Now we know this after what was done by Dr. Professor Zai Hawass, what we call it DNA research, and we knew his grandmother, Queen T, Mummy, and of course his mother, Queen, let's call her Queen T, Kiab, sorry, because that mum is being found in the tomb of 35, number 35, as we call the tombs in ancient Egyptian chronology, according to the discovery in the Valley of the Kings, we number them. So the tomb number 35 was found a mummy there, and of course the tomb number 55 was found mummy there. After this research was done, we knew that the mummy of what was found in 55 is the grandmother of King Tutankhamun, and the one was found in the tomb number 35, his mother. King Tutankhamun, we don't know exactly if he is a brother of another king or not, because we have another name mentioned after Akhenaten. His name is Semenech-Ka-Ra. And we don't know about him much more. Up to some people or some historians, they said maybe it was a title of Queen Nefertiti, the official wife of Akhenaten. We don't have that much information about King Tut himself. What we knew about him, we knew from the treasury. And recently, Dr. Zahi announced that the two small coffins that was found in the treasury of King Tutankhamun show maybe when contained mummies of children. And that means that King Tutankhamun had two children or two kids, but those babies, let's say, they died very recently after birth and being buried with their father in the tomb. About the daily activities of King Tutankhamun, we don't have that much information because we knew that he get to the throne when he was so young. Some people, they said maybe 9, maybe 10 years old when he came to the power, and was died very young as well. Actually, the new research was done, the DNA research. They show maybe was 20 or 21 years old when he was died. I'm trying to know what exactly caused the death of King Tutankhamun because we get lost between the different theories. There are a lot of theories, and of course, after that research was done by Dr. Zahi, they said he had, an illness of what we call it malaria, and that maybe caused this. But another topic was done, or another research was done for the two mummies of the great-grandparents of King Tutankhamun, Juya and Tuya. Nowadays, have a long gallery in the Egyptian Museum dedicated to their tomb because their tomb was found almost intact as well. And we have the mummies there. And those two people, they died very, long age. They had a very long age, and they had malaria as well. So we can't say that the malaria caused the death of King Tutankhamun exactly. There is another theory talking about an accident because King Tut was riding his chariot dragged by horses and he fallen down, and then he had a kind of injured in his knee, and that caused what we call it gangrene, and that caused his death. Another theory. Some others said that King Tutankhamun had, wasn't that healthy enough to continue more than this, because we know that let's say in ancient Egyptian time, wasn't that long ages as nowadays. Even we have some exceptions like Ramses II and Bibi II as well. They lasted for a more than 90 years old. Like Ramses, he had like something 94 years old when he was died. There are some exceptions about this, but we don't know exactly what caused exactly the death of King Tutankhamun. About his daily life activities, we don't have that much, but maybe he was just young, and his name was changed as well, because we know that King Tutankhamun followed his father, Akhenaten. Akhenaten moved the capital from Thebes, or what we call it nowadays, Luxor, to a new place. It's supposed to be, according to the ancient Egyptian mythology, a new virgin place to establish a new cult or a new religion. That region was called Aton, or Eten, as we call it in hieroglyphics. And Eten means the energy or the power of the solar disk. Another aspect of the solar disk, because we know the solar disk was known from the beginning of the ancient Egyptian mythology as Ra, or Re, as we call it in English language. Ra has different aspects. In the morning is different from the midday, from the afternoon, and was shown as a new cult in Amarna. Amarna nowadays situated in a place in Minya Governorates, about 200 kilometers to the south of Giza. Nowadays, we can visit Amarna, and we have some remains still in a good condition of preservation, especially 39 tombs there showing the high dignitaries and the high officials who worked with Akhenaten in the new site. So King Tut followed his father with the new cult, but as we can imagine, was a child, 9, 10 years old, and the priests at that time and the general of the army, Horemheb, told him, okay, boy, you don't know more, or you are not more King Tutankhaten. Your name had been changed into Tutankhamun. I imagine that time was a child and a boy telling him that your name had been changed. I think he said, what is the matter, Amun or Aton? He didn't understand the meaning of this changing. And of course, the high priest I, who followed King Tutankhamun after his death, and he married with his widow, Ankhesenamun. And of course, Ankhesenamun was called Ankhesenaton as well, because she one of the daughters of Akhenaten, and we know that Akhenaten had 6 daughters. One of them married with her half-brother. That was common between the royal family, that the half-brother can marry with half-sister to continue the royal blood in the throne. Wasn't for anybody, just for the royal family. So Ankhesenamun, or as he used to be Ankhesenaton, of course, we don't know exactly about her. What was happened after her husband's death, after King Tut death. We knew that she sent a letter to the Hittite king in nearby, what we call it nowadays, Syria and Iraq. Was a monarchy, was called Mitanni, and the people was called Hittites. And she said in this letter, would you please send me one of your sons to marry with me to be the king of Upper and Lower Egypt? And we knew that Horemheb, the general of the army, arrested the messenger and the message. And of course, he had his destiny was being killed. We knew this because after Ai's death, the one who married with the widow of King Tutankhamun, Horemheb came to the power. And of course, Horemheb as well had no hereditary, and he had no sons. So his colleague of the army, Ramesses I. That's why we finish the 18th dynasty with Horemheb, and we started the 19th dynasty with Ramesses I. What is going on nowadays, they moved the exhibition of King Tutankhamun from, of course, they started in the United States, in Los Angeles, and then was moved to Minnesota, and then nowadays it was in Paris, and then nowadays it will be was inaugurated already in London. Actually, you can book for the visit to this exhibition online. I have searched about this, and you can book it online. And this is very, very important because from the research that I was done, I found that being booked for a whole week. So you have to wait a week nowadays to get to the exhibition. So it just was inaugurated recently, and start the visit today. The second day of February, of November, you start the visit. It was inaugurated on Friday, but just you can visit, or the visit will start today. And this is very interesting because this is the November month that was the day or the month when the tomb was discovered by Howard Carter in 1922. That was on the 4th of November in 1922. Howard Carter, when he was looking for the tomb, he didn't expect that he is going to find this large and intact one. Even there were two intentions to rob the tomb by the ancient robbers or the tomb raiders at that time, because we knew this from the name of King Ramesses IX and Ramesses XI being sealed on that grave wall that lead to the treasure of King Tutankhamun. And when Howard Carter opened just a small hole in the wall, they asked him, what did you see? He haven't seen more than that gilded box, the biggest one, because there been 4 gilded boxes, one inside the other, like that Russian dolls. When you open, you find more and smaller. Let's say 8 times smaller. You follow the 4 boxes, and then we have a stone sarcophagus, and then 3 wooden, one painted in golden colors, and another one painted or gilded with golden leaves and precious stones, and the third one was of solid gold, that what contained the mummy of King Tutankhamun and the golden mask. Some of those artifacts being moved for the first time from Egypt. We knew that we had a lot of exhibitions before, The first one was done in 1967 in Paris, and the second one was done in 1972 in London, and one was done actually in 2007 as well for King Tutankhamun. All these exhibitions is very important because it attract a lot of tourists and attract a lot of people there. And those people, when they see this little sample, we call it 150 artifacts, this is just a little sample of the great treasury of King Tutankhamun, more than 5,000 objects. Some of them been moved to the new museum, the GEM, or the Grand Egyptian Museum, and some is still exhibited or displayed in one full gallery in the Egyptian, actually the Egyptian Museum in Tahrir Square. And there is a big room dedicated to the Golden Mosque and the other coffins and the colors, pictorials. Let's see, for the first time we have the oldest gloves in the world. It is displayed in this exhibition in London nowadays. They didn't move all the unique things, just the repeated things. For example, we have seen in what is shown in the video, a little head of alabaster stone. This one of four heads. And these heads been serving like lids to close what we call it the canopic jars, which contains the internals of King Tutankhamun or the viscera of the King Tutankhamun. There are a lot of repeated things, especially the trumpet. The trumpet is twins of them. One of them is still in the Egyptian Museum, and a very interesting one. That trumpet is still function, and it was played in 1934 by one of the English officials, and it is registered, it is recorded in BBC, and if you search in the internet about that music, you will find it recorded in the internet. There is another objects like the very, very interesting casket. That casket made of wood gilded by golden leaves, and it is engraved with very, very unique scenes represent the relationship between King Tutankhamun and his wife.
Yes. Mr. Said Taha, an Egyptian researcher and historian, as always, we do appreciate your insight, and thank you so much for being with us on The Breakfast Show.
Thank you.
And I guess this brings us to the end of this edition of The Breakfast Show. I was in the company of my dear colleague Karim Gameluddin. My name is Dina Hussein. Many thanks to Mr. Said Ali Taha. And I guess we come to the end of today's show. Tomorrow, a new edition. Until we see you again tomorrow, that's a goodbye.